My name is Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book, and in this video we're going to be talking about Superman issue 52, which is the final issue for the New 52 Superman. This is the concluding chapter of the Last Days of Superman story arc. And that's written by Peter Tomasi, and the art for this issue is Mikel Janin and Jeremy Cox. And so this brings closure to New 52 Superman. We had the faux kind of imposter Superman that was charged by the solar flare, I believe. He was an ex-con actually from Minnesota, but he's been thinking he was Superman. We have the pre-Flashpoint Superman now on the scene, and he's met the New 52 Superman. He's going to be taking his place. And with this issue, it was wrapping things up, and I'm sure Tomasi was told by the editorials and the people at the head of DC Comics that he had to tell a story that really brought conclusion to the New 52 Superman and set the stage for all the new stuff they wanted to do in Rebirth. And overall, I thought Tomasi did a good job. I thought he told a good story. It's a memorable story. But for this issue and for the storyline overall, I had some negatives together with the positives. First of all, the negatives, I did think that the imposter Superman, kind of faux Superman character, didn't really get a full character arc. It took quite a while for us to really get to know him and to give him some development. And then here at the end, he kind of got abbreviated and just ended really quickly because they needed to save a lot of the issue for the goodbyes and the kind of conclusion, wrapping things up with New 52 Superman. So I thought as a villain, it had some potential but didn't really get fully developed. Some positives, though, I really liked Superman sacrificing himself to stop the threat. I thought that was a Superman moment. I thought it was some great art with the splash page of the big explosion, and then underneath having the reaction shots of the different characters who were witnessing it. And I really liked the emotional stuff with Superman saying his goodbyes, especially with Wonder Woman, and then some good stuff with Batman and Lois and Lana and Steel and everything. I thought Tomasi did a good job with the dialogue there and giving some emotional beats at the end. So I liked that stuff. I did have good emotional connection to it, even though the New 52 era has maybe some ups and downs, and we can talk about that later. But first, let me go to you, Jason, with just your general reactions to Superman 52.
I like parts of this issue, but parts of it, because it was a crossover, kind of the thunder was stolen. Lots of action, you're jumping into it, but it didn't have the weight of Superman being killed or finally dying from his kryptonite poison that you had in the Superman versus Doomsday thing. It had some nice moments, but I feel that overall it fell flat in certain ways. Also, I feel that with Superman kind of being brought in the New 52 and then eventually now dying, and you look at the character arc of what's happened to him in all his different books, it's really not been as epic as it could have been. I think it's kind of a waste of the character to bring him in and then kill him off in a way like this. It had some interesting points, but really it's kind of like talking, this is an allegory for continuity. You're going to have this new version of Superman come around, and it just goes to show you, like New Coke, it just didn't really take as much as the original Superman, because the original Superman came back and tried to save him, and the new Superman was even like, no, they need you, they don't need me, go back there. And that was pretty much it. So I like some of the art, I like some of the interactions between Batman and Superman, and some of the things they said in Wonder Woman. And his death scene was kind of weird. He turned to dust, and something different, I guess, and cool we haven't seen before. But overall, the New 52 Superman books have suffered from having too many crossovers and not enough good crossovers. Lots of potential, but not a lot of great story development once again.
The New 52 era of Superman definitely had some ups and downs, some things that I remember from it. So Grant Morrison did have a good run for like 18 issues maybe in Action Comics. I enjoyed that story. I thought it had some good stuff, but it also never really felt like the mainline Superman, like where you'd want it to be the canonical central Superman book. It almost felt like at times it was complicated and doing some kind of experimental, kind of trippy stuff where it almost seemed like it would have been better as like an alternative kind of Superman story. The Superman book, I remember at the beginning that it just couldn't really get any momentum. It felt like every single arc was a different creative team, and it just kind of kept switching around and trying to find out who was going to take the reins of it. So a little bit of a bad start there at New 52. There was the relationship with Wonder Woman. I actually liked that relationship. I think Lois Lane needs to be the main relationship for Superman, but I think for a few years of time, it was good to explore that connection that they have and take it to some new levels. I definitely remember the Doomed storyline. That was a big crossover. I think they almost tried to make it too big. I thought it had some good parts, good potential. I thought it was a nice reimagining of the Doomsday type of thing, but maybe could have been better. I remember Greg Pak had some good stuff going. I liked his Subterranea stuff and Baka. And then Jeff Johns came in to try to reinvigorate things, and he started off with the Men of Tomorrow with Ulysses, and that seemed to have a lot of potential, but then it kind of, I don't know, petered out, and Jeff Johns kind of left a little bit earlier than I expected. Then, of course, we had Truth, which I liked better than I expected, but not great. Definitely very divisive amongst Superman fans. And then that leads us here to Last Days. Like, so that's kind of the stuff I remember. Definitely a mixed bag. Never really got on a roll like maybe it should have with, the freedom and all the potential in front of New 52. Didn't quite do it. And that maybe is part of why I was sad and kind of emotionally reacted to this New 52 Superman dying, was because he was kind of a character that didn't live up to his potential. It seemed like he still had a lot to try to do to maybe reach his higher heights. Like he hadn't really done the best that he could do yet as a character. So in that sense, he kind of died too young. It seemed like he had a lot of life ahead of him, and maybe his best days were still ahead of him, but he's not going to get that chance. He's done, and he'll just be this part of history now, and things are reverting back to the pre-New 52 Superman. You mentioned the turning into sand type of thing. So that reminded me of the Future's End Action Comics, which was back in fall of 2014, because I remember that was a one-off issue, and it was supposed to take place 5 years in the future, like this possible future. And now it's kind of interesting because that issue had a bearded Clark Kent, and the pre-New 52 Superman that's taking over now is bearded, and he interacts with this sand Superman, and it's kind of a nice little issue. And I don't think that they actually knew that this rebirth was going to happen and this death of Superman was going to happen, but it's interesting to read that one and think about if that issue actually had the pre-New 52 Superman and the kind of sand death version of the New 52 Superman. I don't think it was planned that way in 2014, but I could imagine that maybe Tomasi did this as a little wink and a nod. But anyway, just overall, what are your kind of final thoughts looking back and maybe looking ahead, your overall impressions on Superman here?
So overall, I can't say that the New 52 Superman is going to leave a real big impression on me, except for that first run of Action Comics, and perhaps the costume design was kind of cool. But looks like we're getting back to the original Superman, even though he won't have red boots, it looks like. But the DC Universe could definitely use him again. We'll see how things play out. Pete Tomasi did a good job on that first part, kind of bringing in what was happening with Superman. So I do have faith in his writing for the upcoming stuff. But I just don't think this was a great kind of way for him to show his talents on the character to start out a new era on Superman. So maybe this we can just have kind of a clean slate, start again, and see what happens with Superman going forward. Because the New 52 one just really didn't deliver on a consistent basis for me, and that's something I would like to see change.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping for some consistent quality, especially in Action Comics and Superman, which are going to be coming twice a month. Action Comics is going to have Dan Jurgens, and Lex Luthor is going to kind of be a big part in that. And then Tomasi is continuing on with Superman, like you said. He's got Gleason and Monkey working with him, and that's going to be focusing on the pre-Flashpoint Superman, the kind of classic Superman with his family and stuff. But there's going to be some other cool stuff to follow if you're a fan of the Super family. There's going to be Superwoman with Lois Lane, because if you notice in this issue here that we're talking about, when Superman kind of discharged and died, one of the beams that like kind of hit Lois, and so I think that might be how she ends up getting some powers. There's also going to be in Rebirth the Super Sons with Jonathan and Damian teaming up, and kind of a new take on a Superboy type of character. And then I'm also excited about New Superman, which is Gene Yang, and we talked about Gene Yang before, about how he kind of got thrown in right leading up to Truth, and that maybe that didn't really play to his strengths as a writer. But this new Superman is going to be trying to plug into the Chinese comic book market, which is really growing. So I think it's smart for DC Comics to make some inroads over there. And Gene Yang might be better equipped to kind of take on this new Superman rather than the classic Superman going through the Truth stuff. So a lot to look forward to in Rebirth. But anyway, for Superman 52, end of an era, thanks a lot, Jason, for reviewing it with me.
All right. Nice talking to you. Bye.